Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Put.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Today is the 4th of May. We've entered a new month. You already know that, unless, of course, you somehow passed out and missed the last 4 days. But here we are at May 4th. Sun sign is in Taurus, where it will continue to be for the next 2 weeks. And our moon sign is in Aries. So we have Taurus and we have Aries. So what we have, okay, first of all, our sun sign right here, Taurus. Hierophant, Hebrew letter Va, means nail or hook, hooking the spirit world to the physical, okay? That's what the Hierophant is doing. Now, the Emperor is putting things in order. The Emperor is the one who's overseeing the process that is taking place. He's the organizer. He's the pioneer. The Hebrew letter Hey, window, looking out into the world, looking out, overseeing the world and then organizing. That's what the Emperor does. So we have this organizing principle. It's the color red, which deals with Mars. It's the astrological sign of Aries. So we have this organizing principle right now, which is our moon sign. The moon sign is our unconscious desire. So we want to organize. We want to take charge of our lives. We want to move forward, with what we're doing. And we're doing that all through the lens of the Taurus, of the bull, of the Hierophant. So we're organizing not only the physical, but there's this need because of the Taurus to want to connect this spiritual to it. So it's a nice little tug of war that's going on, and an opportunity really to connect into that deeper aspect of ourselves. Now we have an aspect at 12:34 p.m., which is a trine between our moon sign Aries and Saturn. Saturn is discipline, the disciplinarian. Now, when you think about discipline, I like to think of discipline rather than it being a bad thing, but more like a training, like a sports thing, where you become more focused. Someone becomes more disciplined in their training, so they themselves are disciplining themselves. They've focused, and that's what the whole idea of this discipline is about. So we have Saturn coming in, and Saturn focuses all of that energy. The tarot card of Saturn would be the World. It's the last of the tarot cards where everything is put back into another form, but a better form, because it's transformed. It's rebirthed through the world process. Okay, so we have this nice opportunity, 12:34 this afternoon, 4:12. I have a square. This is Pluto deep transformation. So we have some lessons to learn in our that will be very transformative. One thing to remember about Aries is it is a sign that could be creative, but it could also be very angry and warlike, depending on how the energy in the organization goes. If the organization is good, then the Emperor has no need to be upset. But if the organization doesn't go well, sometimes the Emperor can become a bit frustrated, and that's the lesson right there, to learn how this energy, our unconscious desires here of Aries, how that really affects our transformation, so that we can be aware of it. We want to be aware how we are affected by all of these energies around us. And finally, 11:17 tonight, the last aspect of Aries, Uranus, which brings unexpected changes, surprises, and it's in conjunction here with Aries, which means they're right next to each other. If we look over here at the wheel, okay, right here, right next to each other. So in the same house, right next to each other, having a conversation. So we'll see where that brings us tonight, what kind of opportunities, changes, ways to organize, look at things. But then that's the last aspect, goes void of course, of Aries. So from this point forward, all the way until tomorrow afternoon, it will be in a void of course phase. And then we're going to go into Taurus for the moon sign tomorrow, where it will be both the Taurus sun and Taurus moon after 12:10 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay, so that's a good look at our energy today. Earth sign with Taurus, fire sign with Aries. A couple of aspects, but organizing and connecting. We're almost back to the new moon. The new moon will be on Monday, or excuse me, May 6th, which is Friday. Friday afternoon, 12:29 p.m. Los Angeles time. Right now we're 7.2%. All right, we're on the Jewish calendar. Omer count is day 11. Tonight we begin the 12th. After the Omer count, the daily thought, and today is 26 Nisan. The daily thought for today is two at once. If you find yourself affixed to a single path to truth, the path of prayer and praise, or the path of kindness and love, or the path of wisdom and meditation, or any other path that is a singular mode, you are on the wrong path. Truth is not at the end of a path. Truth transcends all paths. Choose a path, but when you must, take the opposite path as well. It's good advice. Easier said than done, right? But always beneficial to look at things from another perspective. All right, on the Dreamspell Oracle, Warrior Day, a sixth tone, the yellow rhythmic warrior phrases I organize in order to question balancing fearlessness. I seal the output of intelligence with the rhythmic tone of equality. I'm guided by my own power double. Space weather, solar wind, 438.0 kilometers per second, planetary K index, 2, quiet. Looks like that'll remain that way. There are some coronal holes that are starting to open up here facing us. We'll feel that at the end of this week. M-class flare possibilities up at 5%, X-class at 1. Geomagnetic storm activity. Mid-latitudes looks like we're staying the same, 10 over the next 24 to 48 hours, and the upper latitudes the same. So we seem to have come to a nice calm place for the moment. Is it the calm before the storm? I don't know. And finally, looking up at the sky tonight, says the Eta Aquinid meteor shower should peak before local dawn Thursday morning, but it's active for several mornings before and after as well. This is often the best shower of the year for the southern hemisphere. Mid-northern meteor watchers are less well placed and will see fewer. Okay, the sky is free of moonlight. That's because it's almost back down to a new moon again. And there you have it. That's our cosmic weather. That's what we're looking at and dealing with for today. UFO News is up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. Today I have 5 stories. First story, giant black cube seen near the sun in NASA. This was from May 2nd. There's our large cube. Not the first time we've seen this. Not the first time we've seen it by the sun either. This cube was caught between the SOHO satellite and the sun. The cube has been seen before off and on. Sometimes it's been in 3-dimensional. Other times like this, just 2. There's also the possibility that NASA is using a black cube to cover up alien spacecraft that gets caught in SOHO images. So in other words, they could just be using a little pixel square or blacking out that group of squares there because they think something is there. multiple UFOs flying over Burlington, Kentucky, also on the 2nd. Says this is new footage of a huge number of bright objects flying across the sky above Burlington in Kentucky. This happened the 2nd of May. Witness says my wife and I were driving in Burlington, Kentucky when we noticed about 30 bright orange lights moving very fast in a straight line. Then we pulled over and took a video recording with my cell phone. The sighting was unbelievable and lasted roughly 10 minutes and then just disappeared. Alright, well, it doesn't seem to like this video too much. I don't know why. The UFOs don't want to be seen in this one. Okay, one more shot here. There we go. Well, we just have the picture. Looks like that might have to suffice, because yeah, the video just doesn't want to kick in gear. So, alright, this is it. These two lights. Moving on, here we have a UFO that swims through the sky like a whale over Guadalajara, Mexico. Interesting looking object. Like a translucent type object, huh? It's not often you get to see a UFO that moves like a living, breathing animal. But this is one of those. Watch as it almost swims through the sky. Such creatures do exist in space and have been recorded on live cam, but to see them in our sky, that's even more rare. Oh, that's pretty cool. Look at that. Definitely looks like it's swimming, doesn't it? It's pretty fascinating. Well, in the Bible it does describe waters, and that the firmament was created as a division from the waters above and the waters below. Didn't use the word air, it describes water, so it's no surprise that there might be some creatures swimming in these waters, whatever they may be. Alright, very cool. Moving on. General Mark Milley of the DoD says prepare for little green men. Alright, the current Pope is no stranger to the topic of ETs. We are all familiar with the notion of predictive programming, which is designed to desensitize the people to coming trends and judge the reaction of the masses. There is a predictive trend going on right now, and it involves a resurgence in the concept of alien invasion of the planet, a distinctive uptick in predictive programming. I've been noticing this trend in restaurants with the sponsoring of Hollywood movies with an extraterrestrial overtone, and this tone is reaching a crescendo within the past month. In a search for predictive programming trends, I've also noticed a distinct pattern with regards various networks to play their older movies that involve the people of the earth versus some alien threat. Even the Denny's restaurant chain of stores is obsessed and has entered into the partnership with the sequel to Independence Day. Key General predicts that graduating officers will one day fight aliens. The following video depicts General Mark A. Milley mentioning little green men, and he's not joking, and being one of the potential adversaries in the lineup of enemies that a graduating class of military officers will one day have to fight. Okay, so there's a good video there. I'm not going to play this. I'm just going to leave the link available for you. Here is this comment here from Scott Waring, who's the website here. Says, I really like the talk he is giving. At 45 seconds into the video, he states, you will be dealing with little green men. He's in the Department of Defense in Washington, D.C., dealing with sensitive issues like aliens. It seems he let it slip out because keeping that kind of a new secret is a crime, and everyone in on the secret knows that. This guilt drives them to confess sooner or later. I've got a friend in the Department of Defense in Washington, D.C. right now. I wonder if he has seen this and what he thinks. Okay, and one last story here. This is in Canada says they're about to hold their public inquiry into UFO disclosure. First Canadian public inquiry into UFOs in Brantford, Ontario. A hearing on UFOs, a public investigation. Recent reports by Global Television, the CBC, the CTV, indicate Canadians are seeing these strange craft in record numbers. In 2013 alone, over 1,267 UFO reports. As well, a research and development team has acquired dramatic documents from NORAD and the Library of Archives in Canada, indicating several government agencies have been involved in the study of monitoring of the UFO matter for decades. Dozens of these documents and memos from within the government's own database exist. They attest to government involvement in the UFO matter, all written and signed by former Canadian Minister of Defense, Joint Intelligence Commission directors, Scientific Research Board, and Department Transportation officials. One of these never-before-published documents originates from the RCMP entitled UFO Found. However, no public review of these shocking documents has ever occurred. In response to this unusual and publicly unacknowledged set of circumstances, an independent Canadian research and development team has been established. Their mandate is to assemble a panel of world-renowned experts in the field of unidentified flying objects to provide evidence about the existence of UFO phenomena, and to assemble a second panel composed of journalists and academics to challenge and question the experts on UFO evidence. This kind of public inquiry has never been attempted before in Canadian history. The featured panel is former Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, the Honorable Paul T. Hellyer. Okay, so there you go. So UFO news for today. So things still going on. Good info. Disclosure getting a little closer. For those who are waiting for the big disclosure from the government, I guess so. But for those who already know, it's just another story, right? All right, moving on. I'll be back. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right. Continuing on. One of the really awesome things about the world we're living in right now is the opportunity for change. Because that's one thing that is a constant, and it's one thing I think that we're all craving. We've been stuck in a way of doing things that hasn't felt right for a while, and now we're having an opportunity to make a difference in the world. And we're having a difference because more and more people are speaking out. More and more people are participating in the process. Now, participating in the process has many different levels to it, many different ways that people can participate. And that's what's happening. Whereas before, elections would go on, and we wouldn't understand about the electoral process. We wouldn't understand about the delegates because people just lost interest. And so from year to year, every 4 years, election would go on, and the process would happen, and people would think that they were getting their choices, but they weren't. The choices were being made by those behind the scenes. Well, now things are changing. Whoever the candidates are, the personalities are who they are. But as far as the events taking place, it's not really about one party or another. It's a bigger story. There's a movement taking place, and the people of this country are stepping up, and they're starting to take things back. They're taking back their ideas. Even though I personally don't, really support what Bernie, I do understand that the complaints that he has are very valid. I just don't understand the execution of how he would put those in place and correct those. That's what I don't understand. That's where it seems, a bit more in line with his socialistic, democratic, way of thinking. I like where Trump is going, but I'm not convinced that he's the be-all, end-all, forever. But I think taking care of this problem right off the bat, he could come in and solve it with his expertise. Because after all, he's a businessman, and the United States of America is a corporation. So who best to be working with that corporation than a businessman? And, as we come to learn and understand that and more about our system, I think we'll be better off. So a lot of stuff's being uncorked throughout the course of this time that we're this election process. And the most recent one, I brought this up last week, was about this story here, Ted Cruz linked to the JFK assassination. And I wanted to dig into that a bit today because the media just sort of brushed over it yesterday. And I'm tending that they're thinking they're probably going to do the same thing today because there's probably real restriction on what can be talked about. Now, for the last 50 years, since 1963, this has been the biggest murder mystery that has happened in the United States of America. We have investigated this thoroughly. We have really looked into understanding, and now here in 2016, we have this alleged piece of evidence, a new piece of evidence that we haven't had. You tell me that Americans who's been researching this for 50 years are not going to have any interest in this? Do you think that the media is just going to so easily push this aside as if it's a non-issue? I don't think so. This has been the most looked at murder mystery in America. So of course people are going to dig into it. But the mainstream media, as we've learned, is controlled. Therefore, they are not going to allow this information to get out because their controllers are somehow connected to all of this that is happening. Now, yesterday morning, this video here, I'm just going to leave these for you. I'm not going to play any of these, but this video here is the appearance that Donald Trump made on Fox and Friends in the morning, during which time he dropped the little hint that this story existed. Less than 24 hours after that information hit the mainstream, because it went out onto the newsstands, but people walk by National Enquirer and they just discount it. But it got mentioned by Trump in the mainstream, and less than 24 hours after it, Cruz drops out of the race. Well, do you think that there's any connection here to this story and to Cruz dropping out of the race? Because if Cruz continues to stay in the race, what happens? His father continues to be investigated because people want to investigate Cruz's background. Cruz drops out of the race. Hopefully the story becomes a non-issue. So if that's the case, who told him to get out of the race? Beforehand, when Cruz was asked about what his intentions were, he said even if he lost Indiana, there was still a path for him forward. But after he lost, he had a different perspective. There was no longer a path forward. So something happened from the time when he did that interview to afterwards. And in my opinion, I think it has everything to do with this story. Because if there's any truth to it, it's going to connect a lot of people. It's going to connect Cruz with Bush and the assassination. A whole lot of stuff. So I just wanted to provide some links for you today because, you know, this story may be ignored by the mainstream, but those in the alternative media, we want to make sure that this gets out there. Okay, so here's the first one. That link's available here. Now, this one here is Cruz's response. I don't know if you heard this, but said the feud between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz hit epic proportions Tuesday as Republican primary voters headed for the polls in Indiana. Trump was asked on Fox News to respond to remarks by the Texas senator's family on the campaign trail. Rafael Cruz said electing the alternative to his son could be the destruction of America. I think it's disgraceful that he's allowed to do it. I think it's a disgrace that he's allowed to say it, Trump responded. Then he insinuated that Cruz's father may have played some role in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. No, really. He brought up a questionable National Enquirer story claiming Rafael Cruz appeared in a photo with the assassin shortly before the murder. I mean, what was he doing? What was he doing with Lee Harvey Oswald shortly before the death, before the shooting? Trump said, it's horrible. That led Cruz to unload on Trump in a press conference saying that he is immoral and a pathological liar. I'm going to do something I haven't done for the entire campaign. I'm going to tell you what I really think of Donald Trump, he said. This man is a pathological liar. He doesn't know the difference between truth and lies. He lies practically every word that comes out of his mouth. The man is utterly immoral. Morality does not exist for him, Cruz said. He called his suggestions about his father nuts and kooky and pointed out that the Enquirer has endorsed Trump. Now let's be clear, this is nuts. This is not a reasonable position. This is just kooky, Cruz says, and while I'm at it, I guess I should go ahead and admit that yes, my dad killed JFK. He secretly, Elvis and Jimmy Hoffa is buried in his backyard. Trump then issued a statement saying Cruz's outburst shows he is a desperate candidate trying to save his failing campaign. Over the last week, I've watched Lion Ted become more and more unhinged as he is unable to react under the pressure and the stress of losing, in all cases by landslides, the last 6 primaries. In fact, coming in last place in all but one of them, today's ridiculous outburst only proves what I have been saying for a long time, that Ted Cruz does not have the temperament to be president of the United States. Okay. Here's another article here from World News Daily. Rafael Cruz, from Batista to Castro to Texas. In Rafael Cruz's new book, A Time for Action, Empowering the Faithful to Reclaim America, he presents a simple underlying message. For Christians, Jesus Christ should be the foundation of the lives they build, and they should be in action in making a difference in the world around them. In practical terms, this means Christians should strive for a free society that respects each of God's children, should embrace the Judeo-Christian values of love, joy, peace, and should seek a relationship with the living God, the book suggests. His book outlines how people of faith should actively participate in the political process to combat the debilitating and deceptive progressive mantra that there should be a separation of church and state. A Time for Action, Empowering the Faithful to Reclaim America, is the story of one man's quest for refuge from Cuban persecution in realizing the American dream. It's the story about one man finding true freedom that comes from faith in Jesus Christ. It is the story of this great nation that was founded upon Judeo-Christian principles and how and why it has fallen from grace. It is a wake-up call to the faithful across the land to step up to the challenge of entering the public arena and taking on the forces at work to destroy the guiding principles that made this country great. He teaches religious people about saddle up. They must vote and volunteer and campaign. They must get out in political game. The followers of Christ are, in his words, the light of his word. But for a light to have its effect, it has to shine in the darkness. That's why the book explains Christians are to declare, as St. Paul wrote, the whole counsel of God. It warns if Christians remain silent that they will answer to God for that. Okay, let's see here. And it goes down here. Some men could learn from history what lessons it might teach, but passion and party blind our eyes to the light which experience it gives us as a lantern on the stern, which shines only on the waves behind us. This is a quote from Samuel Coolidge. Okay, let me scroll down here, find some more here, and go on to the next story here. This one here, Rafael, Edward, Ted Cruz, and timeline ineligible. Constitutional eligibility for President of the United States is a matter of national security. It is time to choose the Constitution and the Republic over politicians and political parties. Ted Cruz's natural-born status is in question. For that matter, his citizenship status is in question. Cruz is an agent for a foreign power and a foreign invader. Rafael Edward Ted Cruz is not a United States citizen. So I have some videos here on this whole process. Fiorino, here's a quote from her. It's odd. Cruz didn't renounce Canadian citizenship until 2014. Another quote by her. Ted Cruz will say whatever to get elected. But then she jumped on board as his fantasy vice president, even though he wasn't nominee. He had his fantasy nominee, and she was his fantasy nominee vice president, I guess. But she didn't think that he was a citizen. But then she got on board his train. Wonder if that had anything to do with the $500,000 that the PAC sent to her. All right, and then we have some nice good information here all about his birth, delving into it. Okay, and then finally, the one last piece here for you, one last link. It says the source of Trump's JFK claim was also accused Rubio. It says the man behind the National Enquirer story that Donald Trump cited Tuesday, claiming Senator Ted Cruz's father was with JFK assassin, is blogger and independent investigator Wayne Madsen, a former National Security Agency employee with a background in Navy intelligence, and who also was the source of allegations published before the Florida Republican primary that Senator Marco Rubio had a hidden past in Miami's homosexual community. Madsen, also once hired by Hustler magazine publisher Larry Flynt to investigate alleged infidelities by D.C. lawmakers with prostitutes. As World News Daily reports, Ted Cruz unloaded on Trump to reporters in Evansville, Indiana, Tuesday morning, ridiculing his rival's kooky allegation and calling the GOP frontrunner a pathological liar, an utterly immoral bully, and a narcissist who essentially makes President Obama look like an amateur by comparison. In an interview Tuesday morning with Fox News, Trump floated the allegation that the man to the left of Lee Harvey Oswald in the iconic photograph of Oswald hanging out Fair Play for Cuba pamphlets at the International Trade Mart in New Orleans on August 16, 1963, as Rafael Cruz, the senator's evangelical father. His father was with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to Oswald being, shot. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous, Trump told Fox News. If this is true, right prior to his being shot and nobody even brings it up, they don't even talk about that, Trump continued. That was reported and nobody talks about it. I mean, what was he doing? What was he doing with Lee Harvey Oswald shortly before the death, before the shooting? It's horrible. Trump reacted immediately to Cruz's criticism Tuesday with a statement calling his rival a desperate candidate trying to save his failing campaign, who doesn't have the temperament to be president. Mattson told WND that he was paid a minimal fee by National Enquirer for the use of research he already had posted on his site about Rafael Cruz. Nearly a decade ago, Mattson was hired by Hustler owner Larry Flynn to investigate the notorious Washington, D.C. Madam Deborah Palfrey and her black book of telephone numbers of famous clients. The National Enquirer interviewed Mattson last month when a former lawyer for Palfrey, Montgomery Blair Sibley, said that the Madam's book includes phone number that is relevant to voters before they cast their ballot. Mattson told a tabloid if Montgomery Sibley has what he says, it has to be Cruz. In his interview with World News Daily Tuesday, Mattson said he believes an Indiana blogger who was reported Sunday to have committed suicide, Gary Welsh, might have been killed because he was trying to advance the Rafael Cruz story. Welsh, 53, a practicing attorney and the author of the widely followed conservative blog Advance Indiana, was found dead in the stairwell of the apartment building Sunday morning in the incident. In Indianapolis, police ruled a tragic suicide. Okay, my fear is that Wayne stumbled across some information he was going to publish that powerful forces in Indiana did not want to see appearing in the blog. Okay, so there's a lot to this. Let me scroll down here. It says in August 1963, Oswald photo was examined by two experts hired by the National Enquirer, who compared it to the photos of Rafael Cruz from the late 50s and the early 60s. One said there's more similarity than dissimilarity, and the other concluded they seem to match. McClatchy's interviewed a JFK assassination expert, Gus Russo, however, who said the photo evidence was very subjective. It's not proof, it's just an opinion. To charge something this big, you'd better have a better proof than that. It looks like him, Russo said. Russo said Oswald was not connected with the Cuban community in New Orleans, where he lived in 1963, would not have had a Cuban past supporter helping him. He was the ultimate loner, said Russo. Some bloggers who have criticized Mattson's research have also argued that the ears of the main New Orleans photo don't match Rafael Cruz's ears and seen in contemporaneous photos. On his blog, Mattson wrote that Cruz, the son of employees of U.S. intelligence-linked RCA Corporation, left Cuba in '57 for Austin, Texas, where he enrolled at the University of Texas. This is a strange story since he claimed he left Cuba with only $100, which he said was sewn into his underwear. Mattson wrote that Cruz eventually gained U.S. permanent residency and a degree in mathematics from the University of Texas. In 1959, Cruz married Julia Ann Garza, and after Cruz graduated from the University of Texas in 1961, the couple moved to New Orleans from Dallas after the birth of their second daughter on November 18, 1962. Mattson said Cruz worked for an oil company in New Orleans, and he had been less than forthcoming about the details of his time in New Orleans, and that timeline included his move from Dallas. In its follow-up article in April, Mattson noted that Rafael Cruz's draft registration form lists his employer on July 26, 1967 as Geophysics and Computer Sciences, Inc., a French-based company linked with large Schlumberger oil conglomerate, which had been active with the CIA. Moreover, Jean de Marnil, the son-in-law of the Schlumberger founder Conrad Schlumberger, was a key figure in Paramindex, the New Orleans-based CIA headed up by Clay Shaw, that was a very key target of Jim Garrison's investigation of the New Orleans connection to JFK assassination in Dallas. Matson said he's preparing to publish research and documents at the National Archives, proving Garrison was not trying to inform on the three individuals believed to be in Calgary, one of whom Matson believes may have been Rafael Cruz. Okay, so it's a piece of information. It's the most investigated murder mystery here in America. Who killed JFK? Well, maybe this is real, maybe it's not. Maybe the investigation Mr. Matson is doing has some merit to it, maybe it doesn't. But it's par for the course that there's going to be those who are still going to be lying about it and keeping the truth covered up. They've been doing so for 50 years. It's a big issue, and it does seem strange and a coincidence, if nothing else. A coincidence to me that less than 24 hours after the existence of this story was brought to light to the mainstream media, that Ted Cruz drops out. I think he dropped out because it was in his best interest, because somebody said, now it's your time to go. We don't want this investigation into you and your father's connection to anything to happen. And I think that was it. So, dig deeper, my friends. Dig into these stories. The links are available. Check it out. See what you think. Pass the information. Good things happen when good people share the information, when we say and do stuff. Bad things happen when good people say and do nothing. So, we want to make sure that we keep doing something, because that's what's going to be good for all of us. All right? All right. Let's move on and change subjects here. Here's an article from Body, Mind, Soul, Spirit. It says, watch what happens when cannabis is injected into cancer cells. This is mind-blowing. Let me hear. I can go ahead and play this. Let's just take a look at what's going on here. Oh, here, let me get some of this article first. So since 1974, studies have shown that cannabis has anti-tumor effects. The results of the 1974 study reported in an August 18, 1974 Washington Post newspaper feature were that cannabis's component, THC, slowed the growth of lung cancers, breast cancers, and a virus-induced leukemia in laboratory mice, and prolonged their lives by as much as 36%. In 1975, an article in the Journal of National Cancer Institute titled Antheoneoplastic Activity of Cannabinoids, they reported that Lewis's lung adenocarcinoma growth was retarded by the oral administration of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, and cannabinol, CBD. Mice treated for 20 consecutive days with THC and CBD had reduced primary tumor size. In 1998, a research team at Madrid's Complutense University, led by Dr. Manuel Guzman, discovered that THC can selectively induce programmed cell death in brain tumor cells without negatively impacting surrounding healthy cells. They reported in March 2002 issue of Natural Medicine that they had destroyed incurable brain cancer tumors in rats by injecting them with THC. In 2007, even Harvard researchers found their compounds in cannabis cut the growth of lung cancer. There is even an organization called the Seth Group that shows compounds in cannabis can stop the growth of human glioblastoma multiforme, GBM, brain cancer cells. The Seth Group says that no chemotherapy can match this non-toxic anti-cancer action. Even last year, in 2002, a pair of scientists at California's Pacific Medical Center in San Francisco found that THC stops metastasis in many kinds of aggressive cancer. So here, watch as the active ingredient marijuana kills cancer cells. Okay. Look at that. That's pretty amazing. So it just goes to show that, all these years, natural medicine is showing that um, we have other means of providing ailment healing to the various ailments that are out there. And if we just look past the restrictions that we have with some of the scientific thing, because remember, the pharmaceutical company has it all locked up. There's no money in the cure. And if something as simple as a plant can provide the cure, well, that's not good for the big pharmaceutical companies who want to get people hooked on the various drugs, the pharmaceuticals. And those are the things that kill people. I mean, we look at what happened with Prince. If it's true that he died from the painkillers, like Michael Jackson, he were prescribed those for some sort of a surgical procedure that happened. And he was on those, and apparently he got hooked on them. But there's a pharmaceutical. This wasn't something he was going buying from a drug dealer around the corner. Pharmaceutical company sold them to him. And, how many others? We can think of other celebrities that died due to the use of pharmaceuticals. Wasn't Heath Ledger? Wasn't he also? And what about Farley? Chris Farley? I think we can find many, many other cases. So there's something that we need to get away from the pharmaceuticals. We need to look at the natural ways of doing things. In California, people look at the marijuana in a different way. They look it out here as a medicinal property, and they since have been studying and learning the effects. And there's many, many medical benefits that are found, and articles like this simply show. We could be using this to cure cancers, to cure diseases. There's an obvious reason why, if you go back and if you look at the Bible, marijuana, cannabis falls under the category of a herb-bearing seed, herb-bearing, seed-bearing plant. And not only did God create that, but then after Adam and Eve was created, first thing man was told, was reminded that this existed. So there was something important about it. You can create oils, you can create foods, you can create material, on and on. The amount of products that can come from one plant is amazing. It's not just something that people use to smoke and get high. It's something that people use for a variety of reasons, like a miracle plant. So we need to be able to be open and look at it as such and get away from just looking at it from one perspective. We need to look at the opportunities that this might have of really helping us, healing us, making our lives easier because we can create so much with it. Clothing to oils, foods, pretty amazing. All right, here's one more article here. This is called Your Brain on Meditation by Laurie Anderson, or Amsden, excuse me. It says, science is beginning to prove what Buddhist monks have known all along, that those who engage in daily meditation permanently change the way their brains function, that the simple act of sitting quietly as you shift your attention to your breath follows as it slowly enters and leaves your body, not only allows for the cultivation of regenerative peace, but a myriad of new studies have found that this ancient practice can profoundly change the way different regions of the brain communicate with each other, and therefore how we think. Dr. Judson Brewer, assistant professor of psychiatry at the Yale School of Medicine, published a study that found that meditation appears to change the way the brain works and could give meditators a leg up, not only on handling stress and finding happiness, but also with facing illness and dealing with mental disorders. Understanding how meditation works will aid investigation into a host of diseases. We know what meditation has been shown to help in a variety of health problems, such as helping people quit smoking, cope with cancer, and even prevent psoriasis, says Brewer. Patients subscribing to a 20-minute daily practice learn the ability to switch off areas of the brain associated with psychiatric disorders such as autism and schizophrenia. Conversely, the hallmarks of many forms of mental illness is a preoccupation with one's own thoughts, a condition meditation seems to affect. This gives us some nice cues as to the natural mechanisms, how it might be working clinically. Eileen Lutters, assistant professor at the UCLA Laboratory of Neuroimaging, has found that meditation physically alters the brain and that long-term meditators have large amounts of gyrification or a folding of the cortex, which allows the brain to process information faster. In a press release, she states that the insula in the cortex has been suggested to function as a hub for autonomic, affective, and cognitive integration. Meditators are known to be masters of introspection and awareness as well as emotional control and self-regulation. So the findings make sense that the longer someone has meditated, the higher degree of folding in the insula. So very cool. So, those who've been meditating already know this. And this information, amazingly, is information that comes from ancient sources. So we're not learning something new, we're simply relearning. And to see stories that are picked up like this is a good thing. It's a good thing to know that we are starting to consider the other possibilities are out there, and that science is starting to look at the benefits from such things as meditation. Because that is the simplest, easiest thing that we can do to affect ourselves. Sit down, close your eyes, go inside. Kingdom of Heaven is inside. You go in there, and from in that place, you now have an opportunity to look out towards the world from a different perspective and to kind of put everything in order. Be the emperor within that own universe within you. Organize all of the things around you. Organize your place and how you connect in with all that is moving. And that's what you do when you go inside. So it's great to see that science is catching up. It's great to see that. Okay, and that finally brings us to a channeled message for today.
Archangel Gabriel Daily Message Tuesday, May 3rd, 2016 by Shelley Young. Many of you have become so accustomed to the idea of Archangel Gabriel Daily Message Tuesday, May 3rd, 2016 by Shelley Young. Many of you have become so accustomed to the idea of everything being hard, that the moment you hit a place of ease on your path you immediately start thinking that you have missed something, that you are being lazy, that your ego is tricking you, or that it can't be real. The hard work you have done of releasing, integrating and healing over the past several years is designed to do just that, allow you to start navigating your lives in whole new ways, that are more about flowing than efforting. Feeling greater grace and ease, support and flow, are the natural outcome of the work you have done as you are learning the new operating systems of the enlightening human being. Don't be afraid to trust in it. Rest assured, if you are staying in a state of surrender and flow, if something needs to be addressed it will come up into your awareness. You can deal with it as part of the flow and stay in forward movement. This is trusting in the process. It is a far better approach than constantly looking for trouble. As we have said so many times, if you are in troubleshooting mode all the time, you will always find more trouble to shoot. Ease is the outcome of allowing your highest self to lead the way with your evolution, expansion, and desired experiences in mind, with the support of an entire universe. You will have much more fun if you can allow yourself to accept that whatever you need will present itself in each right now moment. It is the natural evolution of the work you have done to start to experience more and more ease with the process. It does not mean you are missing anything, it means that you have been very diligent and everything is so right. Archangel Gabriel.
All right, good message. Yeah, I like the troubleshooting aspect. If you're looking for troubleshooting, you're always going to find some trouble to shoot. You know, one of the things before we get into our meditation here, one of the things that I find about this time period that's fascinating is we are going through a change, all of us. We're going through a big change because our system is changing. People have woken up and they're continuing to wake up more and more, right? Can't be stopped. I don't think we can stop this right now. You know, people are waking up to see what has been going on. And with all of this change, with all of this waking up, more change is going to happen. Now, there's two things happening in the reality that we're in. And I think it's all been tying together for a long time. You have one aspect of reality that is collapsing, coming to its conclusion, and you have another aspect that is rebuilding. And in some cases, they're happening simultaneously. So I think what's important for us to ask ourselves is, where are we in the process? Are we part of the process that is collapsing? Or are we part of the process that is rebuilding? Because if we're part of the collapsing process, then we don't have very long to go, because the collapsing is going to happen and that's it. Things are going to finish. New things are going to begin. But if we're part of the rebuilding, then we know where to fit into this whole mix. And we can sit back and we can observe what is taking place with a little bit more confidence, kind of settle into understanding where we are in the unfoldment that's happening. And that's what I see taking place. I see a lot of angst that has been there about making some changes in the world. But before we get there, we've got this elephant in the room, so to speak, that we need to be aware of, which is this change that's occurring. And I don't think we can deny it anymore. And it's coming on, and we're seeing big things happen. I don't think, just seeing in the political landscape, just to see how Cruz dropped out, I don't know if that was really expected in that way, because he said he was going to stay on. So that's a quick, sudden change from what he said earlier to later. So things are happening, things are changing. Opportunity for quick change is upon us. So we just need to be aware. Use the astrology, use the daily energy to understand where we are, and kind of move along with the flow. If nothing else, think of this as the rhythm of life. This is the rhythm of the energy around us, and we simply want to move in flow with that. Get in sync with that, okay? So that brings us to our meditation. Close your eyes. Take your deep breath. And exhale. Take another breath. And exhale again. Now, let's imagine ourselves standing out at the shore, watching the ocean. And we see the waves coming in and then going back out. And as we watch the waves, we see that there is another force of energy working with the waves, and that is the air. For this air is moving these waves. And as we follow that energy source back even further, we see that there is an energy of idea and movement behind all of this activity. And on and on. And we realize that the process of life is unfolding according to a intelligence far beyond that of our present reality. And so we look at this reality now, understanding that we don't have to be in control. We don't have to be in charge of everything. Simply need to know where our vehicle is on the road of life. So our spirit feels this vehicle and we move along the world, traveling. And sometimes while we're in this vehicle, this body, we forget that we are spirit. And we get caught up in the ways of the physical world. And other times we remember that we are spirit. And we reconnect to that realm of spirituality. And throughout life we go back and forth, like the waves in the ocean, experiencing both the physical and the spiritual, finding that balance between. And from this place of balance we look at the world to understand that which is closing and completing itself. And we recognize that which is beginning, being rebuilt. In understanding that there is a divine plan, a higher intelligence that is behind all of this. We simply align ourselves with this intelligence that we know when our time and in doing so we allow ourselves to be patient, that we move through the time of change and collapse patiently as we prepare for the moment of rebuilding. So we thank you, Heavenly Mother and Father, for all the blessings of love, of your Spirit that flows through us, of the Christ that blesses our lives, fills our lives. We look forward to the opportunity to be able to further expand forward your vision of reality. And we are grateful for the opportunity to observe and patiently watch the unfoldment of all that emanates forth from the source of your oneness, your beingness. So let's just imagine ourselves now observing all of life, seeing it unfold slowly, peacefully, purposefully, and understanding where and how we fit into the whole mix. So let's continue to observe. Let the subconscious mind continue on that journey, and let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment, filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment, filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment, happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. And exhale. That's it, my friends. That's it for today. Thank you very much for being here. The links to all of the stories are available at firstcontactradio.com. Lots of information for us to explore. Lots of things for us to observe. Just get into sync. Remember, we are at a Taurus and we're at a Aries moon. So we want to be able to have the physical, but we want to find a way to connect with the spiritual and see our place in all of the organization that's happening around us. That's it, my friends. Have an awesome day. I'll be back with more news and information. Till then, I love you. Keep loving each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.